3 years. You can see here. Here you can see how much it differs from season to season in comparison to Taiwan or Taipei. And in the winter it's quite cold. Also, snow is very common, and it's why the country also has many ski resorts. On a sunny day in winter, you will probably find many Slovenians enjoying skiing because they mostly do that. We don't have a lot of rainfall in winter as well. Then in spring, in my opinion, the most beautiful season, it gets a bit warmer and the flowers start blooming. So this is, everything becomes green and the flowers start blooming and most people start hiking, so it's really a beautiful scenery. Then in summer, in summer it becomes quite hot. Not as hot as in Taipei, but sometimes the temperatures still reach like 35 degrees, but mostly they're around 30 or a bit below. This is the same lake that I introduced before, so Lake Bled, where you can also swim, and you can also enjoy swimming in the Adriatic Sea. And then in autumn, the temperatures lower a bit again, and it becomes quite cold. And but the scenery is also quite beautiful because the leaves turn orange. And it is very typical for Slovenians to go during this time of the year to go pick up chestnuts or mushrooms and then cook a soup from it. Now let me get to the history. A very short history of Slovenia. So, Slovenia has been inhabited for a really long time. So, we have evidences of human habitation from 250,000 years ago, which is a lot. And also, possibly the oldest instrument in the world was found here. I don't know if that's true, but they say so, and this is supposedly the instrument that I'm talking about. And basically during as I mentioned earlier, the location of Slovenia, if we go back, is at the crossroads of many different nations and geographical units. That also left its impact on the history, because many different ethnicities and empires changed throughout the history in this territory. So from the Roman Empire to the Slavic tribes, which are the ancestors of Slovenians, and then also Austrian Empire, Napoleon, and in the end also Austria-Hungary. In recent history, Slovenia was also part of the so-called Kingdom of Yugoslavia, and later on also the Socialist Republic of Yugoslavia, which consisted of many different countries, also Serbia, Croatia, Montenegro, and North Macedonia. This is, so as I said, different empires and different rules left a big impact on the scenery and the buildings and the architecture in Slovenia. So what you can see if you would go to Slovenia is a lot of castles. This is my hometown below. It is the second oldest city in Slovenia, and if you come to Slovenia, be sure to visit it. This is the capital, and so an interesting thing is that Ljubljana, as well as my town, if you look at it from above, you would notice that it has a very classic medieval shape. So that would mean that there is a river flowing through the center, and it has a castle on the hill, and a wall around the old town. This is also Ljubljana by night, and for example, these buildings, they were built and influenced by the Austrian Empire. Okay, so now we get to the traditions and important holidays in Slovenia. It has a rich, I would say, and a long history of traditions, and we developed quite a specific traditions to us, and it has influences from different nations. We have a bit of the influence from the northern countries, from the southern, from the Ottomans, from the eastern countries, and from the west. And different holidays, important holidays, have different backgrounds, because most of the Slovenians are Roman Catholic, so they're Christian. we have very important religious holidays, of which the most important are Easter and Christmas. And I will also present you later the dishes that we eat on those two special occasions. And then non-religious are often they commemorate the important dates of our nation. Probably the most important one is the Statehood Day on 25th June, which is also shown here. Basically, that's when we became independent. That was in I forgot to mention that. We became independent in 1991. Exactly on 25th of June, and the picture is showing exactly that date when we became independent. This would be a typical clothing, a Slovenian clothing, which is not that common anymore. I don't think you would see anyone in the street wearing that, but on some special occasions, some people still do it. Okay, so the same as every other nation, we also have our own national sports. And as I mentioned earlier, we love winter sports. Skiing and ski jumping. If you never heard of ski jumping, no problem. I'll also show you, if we'll have enough time, a video later showing how this is held. So basically, it is only popular in a few countries in Europe, but it is very popular in Slovenia. This is an event that is held at the end of every World Cup in ski jumping, and it would attract something like 40,000 people to it, and it is really a holiday for Slovenians when this happens. And as you can see, we also like team sports. Of the team sports, we like basketball, volleyball, football, and nowadays, it's not a team sport, but nowadays we also like cycling. If you watch any NBA or basketball, you're probably, or maybe familiar with this guy on the left. His name is Luka Doncic, and he's probably the most famous Slovenian right now. And then this guy is the winner of Tour de France, so the biggest cycling race in the world. And he is one of the best goalkeepers in the world in football, and he plays for Atletico Madrid. I have to mention, he's my neighbor. And we have another famous Slovenian, which you might have heard of. Her name is Melania Trump. We aren't necessarily that proud of her. If you don't know, by any chance, she's a wife of the former well-known president of the US, Donald Trump. We are not, it's hard to say if we are proud of her, but she's definitely quite well known around the world. Okay, so then let me talk about our food as well. I really have to point out that food and culinary is a very important part of our nation. As I said earlier, with the architecture and everything, it goes the same for food. We have different influences from different countries. So you would also find a very different food in different parts of the country. For example, here there were more influences from the south, so from the Balkans and from the Ottomans. And then here we have a cuisine similar to Hungarian. Here you would mostly find a mix between Croatian and Italian kitchen. And later I'll also present you the most national dishes, but let me introduce you to her first as well, because she's the she owns the first restaurant that got 3 Michelin stars just recently in Slovenia. It was quite a big thing for Slovenians, and I think they're quite proud of it. Our national dishes. First, it's the carniola sausage. You'll mostly find this sausage in the mountainous parts, but I think you can find a pretty good carniola sausage everywhere in the country. I mean, most people like it. And then we have a dish called strufli. It's really hard to describe what this actually is, but it's a dough. It can be steamed or baked, and it is filled with cottage cheese. It can be eaten with meat, or it can also be eaten sweet. I personally really like it when it's sweet with butter. The next dish is potica. I think that is the most typical dish that we have. It's just how to explain this? It's not a cake, but it's basically a rolled dough that we also make at home on Christmas. And it can have various different fillings, so from tarragon, walnuts, and many different nuts in general. Next one is kind of similar, so it's called tetdyrfufhhf, and it's very similar to Italian ravioli. It also has, I think if you would do a blind test, you wouldn't notice the difference basically. But it is the thing is that tetdyrfufhhf are mostly the side dish for meat. Only here you don't see meat, but normally they are served with other types of meat, and they are filled with potato filling. And then we have prosciutto, which is the same as prosciutto in Italy, or jamón serrano in Spain. It's basically the same thing. And the last thing is teran. It's a sort of a red wine that originates from Slovenia, and I think it's also protected by its origin. Yeah, and for the end, I also saved you 2 fun facts about Slovenia. So if you look closely on the map, Slovenia is shaped like a chicken, the country, and it is the only country in the world that has the word love in its name. Our tourist agencies love to use that phrase. Thank you. So let me show you the video now, if it's possible. So yeah, this is the end event that we hold in Slovenia for ski jumping. It's in Google. Yeah, so, yeah, this is basically the sport. And Slovenians are really crazy about it. I personally don't think it's that interesting, but I mean, they love it, so I have to show it.
Ogromno prednost ima pred Jurijem, 19 točk in 2 desetinki. Ali je tole priložnost za nov svetovni rekord? Prav gotovo ima vse možnosti Peter Prevc. Ali bo tvegal skok v popolno v dno letalnice? Daleč visoko je prišel, da letalnico še leti.
Now people will go really crazy about it.
Mislim, da tam okrog 237 metrov ni šlo do rekordne daljave. 5x20 ocena.
I think it's quite famous, it's quite popular in Poland as well. Poland, Norway, maybe Austria and Germany, but that's about it.
Lahko rečem nekaj neverjetnega, fantastičen dosežek Petra Prevca, ki je tako dosegel svojo 6. zmago v svetovnem pokalu in zmanjšal razliko.
So yeah, in case you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I will be happy to answer. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for your presentation, and feel free to ask me any questions related to the presentation. Nope.